History's complex tapestry is woven with threads of triumph and innovation, but also profound suffering. We often celebrate human ingenuity and progress, yet we must also confront the darker chapters of our past. Today, we explore the most brutal wars, conflicts so devastating that merely being born into them was a profound misfortune. These were not just battles fought on distant fields. They were crucibles of human experience. For those caught within their grasp, survival became a daily, desperate battle. Life itself held a tragically low cost, often extinguished by forces beyond individual control. These conflicts reshaped societies, scarred generations, and left indelible marks on the human psyche. They serve as stark reminders of humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. Understanding them is crucial to comprehending the world we inhabit today. Imagine a world plunged into chaos for 3 decades, a conflict so pervasive it redefined an entire continent. This was the 30 Years' War, an inferno that consumed Central Europe from 1618 to 1648. Its geographic scope was immense, drawing in major European powers. The underlying causes were a volatile mix of religious and political tensions. The Protestant Reformation had fractured the Holy Roman Empire, leading to deep-seated animosities. Dynastic ambitions and power struggles further fueled the flames, creating a continent-wide conflagration. This was not a war of swift, decisive campaigns. It was a grinding, protracted struggle that bled nations dry. Armies, often composed of mercenaries, lived off the land, devastating everything in their path. Famine and disease followed in their wake, claiming more lives than direct combat. The human cost was staggering, almost incomprehensible. Estimates suggest that up to 8 million people perished, a significant portion of Europe's population at the time. Entire villages were wiped out, their inhabitants either killed, displaced, or succumbing to starvation and plague. The brutality was amplified by a distinct lack of established rules of engagement. Soldiers often acted with impunity, leading to widespread atrocities against civilian populations. Looting, rape, and wanton destruction were commonplace, turning vast regions into desolate wastelands. This conflict was a true nightmare for anyone born into it. Childhoods were stolen, futures extinguished, and the very fabric of society was torn apart. It was a war where survival was a daily miracle and peace seemed an impossible dream. The First World War, often tragically mislabeled as the war to end all wars, ushered in an era of unprecedented destruction. From 1914 to 1918, the world witnessed the advent of industrialized warfare on a scale never before seen. This conflict fundamentally changed the nature of combat. New technologies born from the Industrial Revolution transformed battlefields into meat grinders. Machine guns, long-range artillery, and barbed wire created static front lines where millions were sacrificed for mere yards of territory. The sheer destructive power was overwhelming. The soldiers' experience in the trenches was one of constant, soul-crushing terror. Artillery barrages, lasting for days, turned the earth into a churned wasteland of mud and shattered bodies. The relentless shelling created an environment of perpetual fear and psychological torment. Beyond the physical devastation, the horrors of chemical weapons added another layer of brutality. Chlorine, phosgene, and mustard gas inflicted agonizing deaths and debilitating injuries. These silent, invisible killers brought a new dimension of terror to the battlefield. Life in the trenches was a relentless cycle of death, disease, and despair. Soldiers lived in squalor, surrounded by the dead and dying, constantly exposed to the elements. Hope was a luxury few could afford, and the prospect of survival dwindled with each passing day. The impact of the war extended far beyond the battlefield. Civilian populations faced rationing, propaganda, and the constant dread of casualty lists. The war effort consumed entire nations, demanding immense sacrifices from everyone. A generation was scarred by loss and trauma, both physical and psychological. The lost generation bore the indelible marks of this global catastrophe. The First World War was a brutal awakening to the true cost of modern conflict, a stark warning of what was to come. Just 2 decades after the war to end all wars, humanity plunged into an even deeper abyss, the Second World War. From 1939 to 1945, this global conflict unleashed atrocities on an almost unimaginable scale. It redefined brutality and the very concept of total war. At its core was the systematic extermination of millions, an atrocity known as the Holocaust. This state-sponsored genocide targeted Jews, Roma, homosexuals, and countless others, demonstrating humanity's capacity for unimaginable evil. It was a deliberate, industrialized campaign of murder. The war also saw the devastating use of atomic weapons, forever changing the landscape of warfare. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki unleashed unprecedented destructive power, instantly obliterating cities and their inhabitants. The nuclear age was born from this horrific act. Relentless bombing campaigns targeted civilian populations, turning cities into rubble and firestorms. London, Dresden, Tokyo, and countless others endured sustained aerial assaults. The distinction between combatant and non-combatant blurred, making every citizen a potential target. For those born into this era, the constant threat of violence was an inescapable reality. Air raids, invasions, and occupation became part of daily life. Safety was a fleeting illusion, and peace a distant memory. Millions faced displacement, forced from their homes by advancing armies or destroyed cities. Refugees streamed across continents, seeking safety and sustenance in a world turned upside down. Families were torn apart, their lives irrevocably altered. The loss of loved ones was a universal experience, touching nearly every family. Fathers, brothers, sons, and daughters perished on battlefields, in concentration camps, or under falling bombs. The grief was collective, profound, and enduring. The scale of suffering during the Second World War is almost incomprehensible. It was a conflict that touched every corner of the globe, leaving a legacy of death, destruction, and trauma that continues to resonate today. It stands as a chilling testament to the depths of human conflict. While the global wars often dominate historical narratives, countless other conflicts have inflicted immense brutality on those born into them. The Korean War, for instance, was a brutal proxy conflict that devastated the Korean Peninsula. It featured intense fighting, extreme weather conditions, and massive civilian casualties. The Vietnam War, another protracted and devastating conflict, introduced the world to the horrors of guerrilla warfare on a massive scale. Civilians were caught between warring factions, facing napalm attacks, defoliants, and the constant threat of violence. The psychological toll was immense. Beyond these, numerous civil wars throughout history have been particularly brutal. These internal conflicts often pit neighbor against neighbor, leading to deep-seated animosities and widespread atrocities. The Rwandan genocide, for example, demonstrated the horrific potential of ethnic conflict. Common characteristics define these brutal struggles. Guerrilla warfare, by its very nature, blurs the lines between combatants and civilians, making everyone a potential target. The targeting of civilians, whether intentional or collateral, becomes a tragic hallmark. Brutal tactics, including scorched earth policies, massacres, and systematic torture, are often employed. These methods aim to break the will of the enemy, but they inflict unimaginable suffering on the populace. The legacy of such conflicts endures for generations. These wars, though perhaps less globally encompassing than the world wars, were no less devastating for those who lived through them. They represent the enduring capacity for human conflict to inflict profound and lasting pain. The conflicts we have explored today represent some of history's most brutal chapters. They are stories of immeasurable suffering, where the simple act of being born into a particular time and place dictated a life of hardship, fear, and loss. The human cost of these wars is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. The stories of survivors and victims serve as powerful, enduring testaments to the resilience of the human spirit, but also to the profound depths of human cruelty. They compel us to remember, to learn, and to strive for a future where such brutality is confined to the history books. Understanding these periods is not merely an academic exercise. It is a moral imperative. It is a call to reflect on the choices that lead to conflict and the consequences that follow. We must never forget the lessons etched in the annals of these brutal wars. If you found this exploration insightful, please like this video. Your support helps us continue to delve into these important historical narratives. And subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analyses of history's most pivotal moments. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Are there other wars you believe should be included in this discussion of history's most brutal conflicts? Your perspectives enrich our collective understanding.